Jomo Kenyatta is the father of the African nationalism and the African national movement in this country.
But surely you're all rather more advanced than he is in your thinking about politics. Wouldn't he embarrass you if he was really let go now?
We cannot in any sense be more advanced than our teacher and master, whom I think is much more advanced in political outlook in this country than we are. We are still just in the stages of learning politics from him.
Ya kuendesha kazi yetu ya serikali ikiwa na madaraka.
1st of June 1963, Mzee Jomo Kenyatta became the first Prime Minister of self-governing Kenya. At midnight on December the 12th, 1963, at Uhuru Stadium, amid world leaders and multitudes of people, a new nation was born. And a year later, on the 12th of December 1964, Kenya became a republic, with Kenyatta as its first president.
Harambee! Na mashamba yetu harambee! Na mifugo yetu harambee! Uhuru! I, Jomo Kenyatta, being chosen and admitted to the cabinet in Kenya, do swear that I will be true and faithful to Kenya, and that I will, to the best of my judgment, freely give my counsel and advice for the good management of the public affairs of Kenya. I, Jomo Kenyatta, do swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Her Majesty the Queen Elizabeth II, her heir and successors, according to law.
Nataka niseme kwamba yale yaliyotokea leo asubuhi kwa muda mfupi iliyoletea wananchi wasiwasi mwingi, sasa imeangamizwa na jeshi letu la nchi kavu na polisi, na nawashukuru wao sana kwa juhudi zao za kuangamiza hawa maharamia ambao waliweka wananchi katika hali ya wasiwasi. Nataka niseme kwamba mambo kama haya ambayo yalitukia ni watu au wanajeshi la angani ambao walijichukulia madaraka ya kuharibu yale yote tunayotaka kufanya. Na kwa hivyo tulieni mahali popote mliko, angalieni kwamba mnafanya kazi zenu za kawaida, lakini kutoka leo saa 12 mpaka saa 1 kesho asubuhi kutakuwa kuna curfew. Yaani hakuna mtu ambaye anatembea katika mji wa Nairobi kutoka saa 12 leo jioni mpaka saa 1 kesho asubuhi. Pia curfew pia itakuwemo na nyuki kwa saa hizo saa 12 leo jioni mpaka saa 1 kesho, na itaendelea mpaka serikali itangaze ni siku gani kafyu itakomeshwa. Nataka kuchukua hatua hii
sema harambee kubwa, alafu wale wanajifuna watetemeke. Harambee! Basi wananchi, mimi nafurahiwa sana nikiwa hapa kwa maana ya kufungua hospitali hii. Kama mjuavyo, hospitali hii ni msaada kutoka kwa marafiki wetu wa Russia. Tumeona ni heri tuifungue hospitali yenyewe iwe ya kutumiwa na wananchi. Na sasa, kabla sijafungua hii hospitali, mimi nataka kusema maneno machache. Na mimi naanza kwa msemo wa Kiswahili usemavyo kwamba asante ya punda ni mateke. Asante ya punda ni mateke. Sisi tunakuja hapa kuwaletea bahati, kuwaletea hospitali ambayo ni ya kutibu wananchi, na kuna vinyangarika wa KPU wanathubutu kuja hapa na kusema maneno machafu. Mimi nafurahiwa sana kuona rafiki yangu Odinga ambaye ndiye mwongozi wa hawa watu yuko hapa. Na mimi ningesema, kama si heshima ya urafiki wetu na wewe Odinga, mimi ningesema tiwe nguvuni leo. Waangalia ni nani anatawala nchi hii, kama ni KANU au ni vinyangarika wengine wanatawala nchi hii. Walakini mimi nasema kwamba kama hawa watu wako wachafu, kama wakitoa nyokonyoko, sisi tutawaonya.
Kuja kwenu kwa wingi vile mlivyo kumeonyesha ya kwamba na hata nyinyi mmefurahia sana na kazi ambayo ninaifanya ya kusaidia wananchi wenzetu. Hangekuwa tajiri kama si jasho yako. Hakuna haja ya kwenda sasa hadi kwao kuambia mimi nataka kura. Wao wanajua kama mimi nafaa.
Hii ni serikali yenu, na tunataka nyinyi kuangalia hii serikali, tena kuwa na roho ya kuangalia serikali hii. Watu wafanya chafua pande huu. Usikubali kwa watu kuchafua serikali, na usikubali kwa serikali aende kando. Ikiwa kama unaona sisi tuko na kasoro, sema wasi. Hapana kaa kimya. Utasema tu kwa sauti ya wale watu wenu ambao iko katika parliament.
na hĩndĩ ĩrĩa emergency twakeranga gũtanyeni gwĩciria we athiĩ tuonete athuri na atumia
Watu wakae kimya.
Effective. When appropriate, we should.
Kenya government, I urge all our countrymen to reflect calmly on all that has occurred, to understand all the cold and pitiless motives and expectation of forces that have been at work. I call on all Kenyans to stand together in defense of our nationalism and all that we fought for and have built with our faith and our sweat. For without such understanding and resolve, our people may suffer simply through being manipulated like puppets on a string.
A South African spy was interviewed and claimed that South Africans might have had something to do with the assassination of Mr. Mboya. You have commented on this, I know.
I commented last night, and I would like to repeat the same thing, that we have no knowledge of this, and I cannot definitely say anything that affects a sister state which is their responsibility.
To help us in the task.
On the bottom of page 5 and also in page 2 in the next to the last paragraph, they make it fairly clear that the implication is that it was neither tribal nor personal, but apparently to support an alien ideology. Now, does this suggest that if it isn't South Africa, that you're looking toward support from some other country which sponsored the assassination?
No, I would, as I said, let us all avoid speculation. I don't want to prejudice the cases sub judice, and I don't want to go anything that would block the way in this matter.
washed with Kikuyus, while the forces of law and order fought to keep them.
For the longest period, Saturday, October 25th, 1969 remained one of the darkest days for the people of Kisumu in the then Nyanza province. It marked one of the ugliest incidents of political violence in the country. This was the culmination of bitter political undercurrents that pitted two senior political leaders in the country against each other. The then sitting President Jomo Kenyatta and his first Vice President Adonija Ajuma Oginga Odinga, also known as Jaramogi, a bosom buddy turned fierce foe. Jaramogi, who had dramatically resigned from office in 1966, just 2 years after Kenya had gained independence.
People around President think that Jaramogi was a threat to them. And that is why they fought him and removed him.
On 5th July 1969, Tom Mboya was assassinated here in downtown Nairobi, killing that sparked political tension and panic across the country for several days, whose culmination was the chaotic Requiem Mass at the Holy Family Basilica, where scores were injured and several people arrested as mourners clashed with the police. 4 months after his assassination, as members of his community in Luo Nyanza continued mourning, President Jomo Kenyatta made a trip to Kisumu, which equally turned chaotic and bloody following events that unfolded. Many years later, many people would call it the Kisumu Massacre. This is the untold story. My name is Duncan Haemba. Jaramogi Oginga Odinga and Jomo Kenyatta, both deceased, were some of the leading lights that played a critical role in Kenya's independence in 1963. From the beginning, they were like twins, from the regalia they donned to glowing tributes they paid to each other. In spite of the pressure exerted upon him by the colonial government, Oginga Odinga declined to accept being Kenya's first president and insisted that Kenyatta be released first from prison.
These people, Kenyatta and Jaramogi, were good friends because Jaramogi fought tooth and nail to release
In the shadows of independence, a bullet silenced a revolutionary. Who killed Piagama Pinto and why? Join us as we dive into Kenya's first political assassination. Don't forget to subscribe to support our work. This is Dark Echoes 254. Dark Echoes 254.
It took a while before one began to realize that things weren't quite right.
Wacha kuhuzika, kwanza hata sikumujua. Mimi nilitumika kama scapegoat.
Piagama Pinto was born on March 31st, 1927 in Nairobi, Kenya, into a family of Goan Catholic descent. His father was employed in the colonial administration while his mother tended to the home, raising him with the values of discipline and faith. At the age of 8, Pinto was sent to India for his education, a journey that would shape the ideological foundation of his future activism. He spent his formative years in Goa and later in Bombay Presidency, regions pulsing with anti-colonial energy as India's struggle for independence intensified. During his teenage years, Pinto joined Karnataka College in Dharwad, enrolling in science courses. But it was the social and political turmoil of the time that captivated him more than textbooks. In 1944, at just 17 years old, he joined the Royal Indian Air Force as an apprentice ground engineer. His time in the Air Force instilled in him a technical discipline and organizational rigor that would later support his activist work. After leaving the military, he briefly worked with the Bombay Post and Telegraph Department, but he was soon drawn back into the urgent cause of liberation. Pinto's political awakening truly ignited during this period. Outraged by the ongoing Portuguese colonization of his native Goa, he co-founded the Goa National Congress, which advocated for Goa's independence from Portuguese rule. He quickly became involved in organizing protests and rallies, activities that put him on the radar of the Portuguese authorities. A warrant was issued for his arrest, forcing him to flee India and return to Kenya in 1949. He came back not as a passive migrant, but as a politically sharpened firebrand, carrying with him the fierce spirit of India's anti-colonial resistance. Upon his return, Pinto took up clerical position, first with the East African Railways and later with private firms, but his true calling lay elsewhere. He turned to journalism as a tool of resistance, contributing to the Daily Chronicles, Colonial Times, and broadcasting for All India Radio Swahili service. Pinto also helped establish Uzward, a Goan language newspaper, as a means of political mobilization with the Indian diaspora. In 1951, he co-founded the East African Indian Congress, a body aimed at politically organizing the Indian community in solidarity with African nationalists. Pinto's work increasingly aligned with his African liberation efforts, and he became an outspoken advocate for the Mau Mau uprising, land redistribution, and workers' rights. His politics were firmly rooted in socialism and Pan-African unity. He believed that liberation would be incomplete if it merely transferred power from European colonizer to a local elite without addressing inequalities and injustice.
The question of logistical and financial support, we acknowledge with gratitude the contribution of the countries which provided peacekeeping and observer troops now in Chad.
I don't know Marxism. I have never studied it in my life.
One day in the wee hours of August 1, 1982, unknown to the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, his junior officers attempted to topple him as their commander and President of the Republic. It was the darkest day in the history of the country. The nation survived military rule by a whisker.
We were just guarding the base. After guarding the base, we stayed there. There was no further instructions. I stayed there up to noon time when I went for my lunch. From my lunch, I got the army officers from first care. They came in.